Have you ever wondered what kind of power can stop a war without firing a single arrow? What kind of strength can silence hatred without spilling blood? In a land fractured by generations of conflict, where rival factions rose and fell like storms, war had become tradition, and hatred had become inheritance. Children learned the names of enemies before they learned how to read, and elders spoke of peace the way people speak of myths, beautiful, but unreal. Every leader believed the same lie, that only force could bring order. That fear was the only language enemies understood, and so the fighting continued, year after year, until the land itself seemed tired of bleeding. It was in this broken world that a man named Li Shen began to walk the roads, carrying no weapon, wearing no armor, protected by nothing except clarity of thought and depth of wisdom. People laughed at him at first. What could a man with words do in a world ruled by blades? But Li Shen did not argue. He observed, he listened, he understood something others did not. Wars do not begin with swords. They begin with minds poisoned by pride, fear, and misunderstanding. Wherever he went, he sat among the people, not above them. He listened to farmers who had lost their land, mothers who had buried sons from opposing sides, soldiers who no longer remembered why they were fighting. He noticed that no matter which faction someone belonged to, the pain sounded the same, the grief had the same weight, and Li Shen knew that if suffering was shared, then peace could be shared too. When he finally approached the leaders of the warring factions, he did not condemn them, and he did not beg them. Instead, he asked questions that unsettled them. He asked what kind of future they were building. He asked how many victories it would take before the land was too empty to rule. He asked who would remember their names when only ruins remained. Some leaders dismissed him as naive. Others mocked him openly. But a few listened, because his questions echoed doubts they had buried deep inside themselves. Li Shen spoke to them of harmony, not as weakness, but as the highest form of strength. He explained that a ruler who cannot govern himself cannot govern others, and that order imposed by fear collapses the moment fear fades. He taught that true authority comes from moral example, that when leaders act with integrity, people follow willingly, not because they are forced to, but because they believe. Slowly, the leaders allowed him into their councils. There, instead of discussing battle strategies, Li Shen guided them into conversations they had avoided for years. He encouraged them to speak honestly, not as enemies, but as humans shaped by fear and ambition. Tensions rose, voices clashed, old wounds reopened, but Li Shen remained calm, reminding them that conflict ignored does not disappear. It multiplies. He proposed small acts of cooperation, not grand treaties that could fail, but simple shared responsibilities. Repairing roads together, protecting neutral villages together, allowing trade to flow between territories. At first, trust was fragile. A single rumor could nearly undo everything. There were moments when violence returned, when betrayal threatened to drag the land back into chaos. Each time, people looked to Li Shen, expecting anger or judgment. Instead, he responded with patience and clarity. He reminded them that peace is not the absence of conflict, but the ability to resolve it without destruction. He taught that resentment is like poison you drink hoping your enemy will suffer. Over time, something remarkable happened. Soldiers who once faced each other across battlefields began to meet in marketplaces. Leaders who once swore revenge began to measure success not by land conquered, but by lives improved. Children born during this time learned cooperation before hatred. The land began to heal. Fields were planted instead of burned. Homes were rebuilt instead of destroyed. And Li Shen never claimed credit. He insisted that peace belonged to the people, not to him. When asked why he never took power for himself, he answered simply that the goal of wisdom is not control, but balance. He said that a leader who seeks power will always fear losing it, but a leader who serves truth becomes unshakable. As years passed, the factions that once defined themselves by rivalry now define themselves by shared prosperity. Their differences did not disappear, but they learned how to live with them without violence. The greatest transformation was not political, but internal. People learned that strength without virtue destroys itself, and that wisdom without action is empty. Li Shen's legacy was not a kingdom, but a mindset. He proved that one individual, armed with discipline, empathy, and moral courage, could change the direction of an entire civilization. He showed that unity does not mean sameness. And peace does not mean surrender. It means choosing understanding over ego, patience over impulse, and long-term harmony over short-term victory. And that lesson remains as powerful today as it was then. Because the world still struggles with division, people still believe shouting is stronger than listening, dominance stronger than understanding. But the truth remains unchanged. Wisdom outlasts violence, character outlives power. And those who master themselves can unite even the most divided worlds. If this story inspired you, if it reminded you that leadership begins with wisdom and peace begins with understanding, then like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe to this channel for more powerful stories that challenge the way we think about strength, leadership, and legacy. Every share spreads wisdom, and every subscription helps keep these stories alive.